Hello, all, and welcome to All Red. It's a special East Coast edition of All Red this evening, or for my good friend Aaron, this morning. We are in very different time zones, but we have a very important job to do tonight, Aaron, or this morning, Aaron, and that is to predict the starting 11 for Liverpool versus Brentford. Now, before you say a word, Aaron, I just have to commend you and commend me because we were one off last time. We got 10 out of 11 correct. I think the only one we missed was Robbo over Tsimikas. So well done there. And I'd also like to point out, not to put you down, Aaron, but my score prediction was spot on, and yours was not. So do better this time. Aaron, welcome back. It's great to have you back on the show. And what do you say we hop into some starting 11 predictions? All right, let's start at the back. I'm going Alisson. Oh, by the way, same rules apply this week. We have to agree. All right, Aaron? So either I have to convince you or you have to convince me. Okay? Okay.
I think that's.
Do you disagree with?
I think that's what it'll be
at the back.
I'm going to go for Alisson. Yeah, definitely Alisson.
You think that's what it will be, and I'm guessing Captain Veg, fresh off of his PFA Team of the Year selection, I think he'll be back in time to
agree
start
with that as well
as our starting left center back. Now, I think we have a couple big decisions here. One is left back, and then one is that other center back position. So we obviously saw, the big buzz this week or last weekend was, Slot was so mean to Gerald Kwanzaa, taking him off at half. What a terrible thing for him to do to the youngster.
It was the right
but
decision.
Aaron, why do you disagree?
I think Gerald Kwanzaa can be upset by the decision, but Slot's there to make the decisions for the team, what's best at the time for the team. And I think you've seen once Konate come on at half time, that physical presence. I mean, he was aggressive in the tackle, and Liverpool dominated the ball in the second half. Actually, they did not have a sniff in the second half whatsoever. Konate won all of his duels. Jarell Kwanzaa didn't really put a foot wrong in the first half.
No.
He didn't really put a foot wrong in the first half, but he's not that physical specimen that Konate is. Konate has the pace, he has the physicality, and I think that tweak needed to be made. He made it. It's not the end of the world. There'll be teams there that Jarell Kwanzaa suits a lot more than Konate.
Mm-hmm.
But these big physical teams that want to throw balls into the box and play the ball up in the air, sometimes you need that combative sort of defender, that robust guy that's going to stand there and say, just run through me if you can.
Yeah, the brick wall.
And I think that's what he did. Yeah, the brick wall. Konate played really well, actually, in the second half. And Kwanzaa, like I said, didn't really put a foot wrong. And I've seen Kwanzaa in many games where he has looked like a Rolls Royce.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, in that first half, he just got he got stood on his bottom on a number of occasions by Liam Delap from the ex-Man City player.
Yeah.
No criticism towards Kwanzaa whatsoever. Some days it's your day, some days it's not. And unfortunately for him, on that particular day, it just wasn't going his way. So I think it was a great decision by Slot. And I tell you what, making a substitution at half-time when it was needed, that is a sign of a great manager.
It's a bold move, and one that, and I think we've talked about this before, where you have a manager now who doesn't really care about the optics of what he does in the midst of a game. So, another manager might be afraid of the backlash of like, you take your young and upcoming center back off at half. Hey, especially if things had gone the other way, if he had done that at halftime and then Konate gets beat and, Ipswich go and score a goal because of a Konate error, then it's all on Slot, right? Then everyone's like, what a terrible manager. But the ability to see that, right? When probably most of the fans, like I was a little shocked when I saw Kwanzaa off at half. Did he get hurt? Everyone was like, did he get injured? But having a manager who sees those little things, those little details, like you would think, okay, Liverpool, we were not able to score. We were actually not even able to get close to scoring against Ipswich. And what does Slot do? He doesn't bring on Darwin Núñez. He doesn't take off an attacker. He takes off a center back, and then voila, the whole game opens up. We had 4 or 5 big chances in the second half. We put 2 of them away, and you've got yourself a win. You've got yourself 3 points. So Arne Slot is willing to do those little tiny things that may not be super popular, but so effective, and that was the difference. So Aaron, are you projecting a Kwanzaa start here, or are you projecting a Kanate start in the opposite center back position?
I'm going for Kanate because Brentford, as we discussed previously, are a big team. They're a physical team, and I think it's a fight. I think Brentford are going to put themselves about a bit. I think they might see what Ipswich did in the first half against Liverpool,
exactly,
and say maybe this is the template. One player that we've struggled with against Brentford on many occasions is Brian Mbumo.
Mm-hmm.
We struggle against this guy. I think he's about 5'10", but this guy gives Virgil van Dijk problems. So I think they're going to be physical. I think they're going to be right up for it. I think there's going to be fireworks in this game, and I think it's going to be a very competitive game, and maybe not an easy game. I think it's going to be probably low scoring.
Yeah.
And it's going to be a very physical game. And I think for that reason, and that reason alone, Kanate is a fighter. Can be reckless at times, but is good when it comes to, that real fight on the pitch. And I think his power hopefully will shine through.
I agree. I think a Kanate start here would lighten some of the physical load of perhaps Virgil or the right back or left back, or even the midfielders. When you have an enforcer like Ibrahim Kanate, there's just less for everyone else to do physically. I remember when I played, and I didn't play at nearly the level of these guys, obviously. But when you know that there's a liability on the field, you are forced to go help. You are forced to go, and not that Kwanzaa was a liability, but if Kwanzaa were to start this match, and you kind of know now, everybody knows in the back of their head, okay, Kwanzaa has some growing to do in terms of physicality, you might just be tempted to say, okay, I gotta stay back a little bit. I gotta help out a little bit. When that ball comes in over the top, I need to be there just in case. That's not the case with Kanate. I don't think anyone's thinking that about him. And that, again, not to knock Kwanzaa at all. I think he'll actually get there. I think he'll learn from this, and I think he'll improve in those areas. But I agree. All right, we've got our first 3 on the sheet here. Let's go right back. Trent Alexander-Arnold gets his second start for Arne Slot.
Oh, second half. He was glorious to watch.
I
think first half, he didn't have a great half in the first half. Like no one had a good half in the first half against Ipswich.
But what did Trent do?
Second half?
What did Trent do in that first half, though? Like, you've got to give him credit for what he did right.
I thought Trent, he covered really well actually, and we got caught out. We got caught out by one of their forwards. I can't remember the gentleman's name, but Trent was the last man, and he did well to get back, and he put the guy onto his, he the only problem is he turned him towards goal, which is probably the only criticism that I would have, but he was there. He was the first man to get to that situation. He really ran as quickly as he could to try and catch that guy and put him under pressure. And I thought it was very commendable. And I thought Trent actually defensively wasn't that bad against Ipswich. But I mean, we are talking about Ipswich, and we have to be realistic. There's going to be a lot tougher. There's going to be tougher games out there for Trent. But I thought he did okay in the first half, and he was probably one of the better players in the first half. And in a poor performance, he was one of the better players.
Yep, defensively he
Second half,
was
amazing.
yeah,
Amazing in the second half.
defensively I thought he was our best player defensively. I think he broke up two counterattacks really well. It just looked like he was not quite finely tuned yet from an attacking perspective. He tried a couple long
Yeah.
balls, they were off the mark. Some of them were pretty bad, but then second half he was vintage Trent. I mean, it was just beautiful to watch. Any time he got the ball, it was like
Amazing.
you're on the edge of your seat, like what's Trent gonna do? Oh man, here we go! And that through ball to Salah was just it was just so
Beautiful.
chef's kiss. Yeah, Trent Alexander-Arnold, very very good. All right, left back, Aaron. I think a lot of people saw a slow Andy Robertson, which could have been just summer legs wearing off. It could also be a sign of things to come for him. What do you make of Andy Robertson, and do you keep him in your starting 11?
This is the hardest question on the pitch today, because Robbo was poor.
Yeah.
He gave up on a couple of runs, like chasing a player. He just kind of gave up.
Yeah.
He almost looked lethargic, slow. I mean, Andy Robertson's 29. It's not like he's an old player,
right?
But his legs didn't look there, and I don't know whether or not the impact of a few injuries last season, because he had a bit of an injury-ridden season for Andy Robertson, because he's normally very very reliable.
Yeah.
But he looked well off the pace. I believe he will start because I think Slot will try and play him into form.
Okay.
But I don't think he would deserve to start. In my opinion, I would probably go with the fitter of the two at the moment, which looks like Tsimikas. But I think he'll go with Robbo. I think he'll try and play Rob, because I think this is going to be his settled back line.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's going to try and bring in a settled back line. And I think he'll go with continuity, play Robertson, and try and play him into form over the first few games.
I think Robertson too kind of fits the shape that he wants, that Arne Slot wants, and we discussed this earlier in the week. When Liverpool gain possession now under Arne Slot, there's a shift, right? They go almost to a back three where Trent comes out, he's getting wider. Kanate or Kwanzaa shift over. Van Dijk's really just kind of the center guy, and Robertson's almost like a third center back. And I think he likes Robertson a little bit more in that space, that position, than Tsimikas. I also think for Brentford, Robertson can handle contact and just an opposition that's a little bit more physical than Tsimikas can. We've seen Robertson kind of deal some damage and some blows over the years. So I agree. I think
he's tenacious, isn't he? He's very tenacious, Andy Robertson. He's very physical as well. Yeah. He likes the fight.
Yeah. And I think he gets better when an opposition is willing to try to egg him on a little bit or try some of that stuff. Bad example probably, but I think back to that match against Barcelona in the Champions League when Robertson was just getting in there on the tackles. He didn't care what happened. He was making sure that Barcelona felt his presence, and I think he can do that really well in games where the opposition tries to kind of out physicality Liverpool. So I agree on Robertson there. I wouldn't be shocked to see Tsimikas start in there, but I do think it'll be Robertson. Okay. That's a good-looking back line. I like that back line. Let's talk about, the double pivot midfield. I think we all saw a potential, I'm gonna say potential, and I'm not going to try to get too excited, but a potential mainstay, if you will, in our midfield, which was Ryan Gravenberch. Now, I need to get this right, Aaron. Maybe you can help me. I've been getting some really great help from some of the community in the comments section, and I've been saying Gravenberch when I should be saying Gravenberch. That was from I think a Dutch commentator in the comments. It's almost like an
Mm-hmm.
H Gravenberg, Burke, like a Burke.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm
Mm-hmm.
going to try to say it the right way. I want to say these names the right way. So Ryan Gravenberg. Do you think he gets his second start under Arne Slot?
I thought he was the best player on the park.
He was. He was.
Alongside probably who I think will be the next double pivot as well. I think probably the pair of them that you're going to pick, which I know you're going to pick, I think they were the best players on the park. I actually thought that's where the strength looked in the Liverpool squad. Gravenberch was so good in the physical aspect of the game, breaking up play. I thought he did really well. He put himself about a bit. I just hope that he can remain at that level. But also as well, he was very physical, and a result of being very physical at times is potentially picking up knocks.
Yeah, yeah.
And do we have someone that can do what Gravenberch can do to come in and replace him if needs be? That would be my only worry.
Yeah.
That's why. Listen. Let's. In an ideal world, we had a Zubamendi type player.
Yeah.
And having a rotation of McAllister, because McAllister could play further up the pitch as well.
Yeah.
Having a Zubimendi type character and having a Gravenberch to rotate between them three, it would spell probably the end for Endo completely, and maybe he'd only play the cup games.
Yeah.
But you'd have three very, very good combative midfielders there that can rotate and remain fit through the season. And I think that would be competitive against the top three teams in the league. Most definitely. Gravenberch technically is a great footballer, yeah? Great footballer.
Yeah. Yeah, he is. He's almost like this fine-tuned machine that I think just needs to be set in the right direction. And again, we all need to temper our expectations. It was Ipswich. But man, he was the best player in the first half, and then he was very clearly the best player in the second half. His ability, and we saw that, and I talked about this in a couple of videos earlier in the week. His position as that kind of deeper lying double pivot number 6 midfielder to go back and forth as our as Alisson and Virgil and whoever's back here when we have possession and we're trying to build from the back. He's going side to side, waiting to get that little gap. And when we saw, Van Dijk or Tsimikas in that second half able to find him, his innate ability to just make those incredible turns, right? And the defense or whoever's trying to press him has no idea what he's going to do. He's so unpredictable. That ability is so critical, I think, for someone in that position in an Arne Slot system. Because when you have a Gravenberch, basically, whenever he receives the ball, it's almost like a split second, one touch, and we're already at midfield somehow. And it's like a 4v3. So I am so looking forward to seeing what he can continue to do in that role. And I'm cautious too. I don't want to say, oh, he's incredible. He's our starting number 6. We don't need to invest there now because we have this guy. And at the same time, I'm very excited. Very excited.
Yeah, listen, not to compare, Sam, not to compare, but Patrick Vieira was also very like that as well. Yeah, Patrick Vieira could take the ball on the turn. He just had that ability, the ball to get played into him. And Patrick Vieira was a big guy. Gravenberch is a big guy as well. He's 6'3", this guy.
Yeah.
He's not small.
Yeah.
He doesn't have that physical presence as much as Patrick Vieira.
Right.
But Patrick Vieira was a very good box-to-box and defensive midfielder.
Yeah.
And I think Gravenberch, he has that about him as well. He has that ability to, like you said, mate, that turn. The ball gets played into his feet with his back to the player.
Yeah.
And he just has that ability to take the ball on the turn and leave the player.
it's just beautifully too. I mean,
it's a
just like
pleasure to watch.
he's just floating around. We're going along here, which doesn't really matter because we can go as long as we want. But do you have concerns defensively with him as our deeper lying double pivot number 6?
I suppose he was tested in the first half against Ipswich when the whole team as a whole didn't look very good.
Yeah.
So in a poor performance, I think he struggled. Yeah, I still think, like you say, he was the best player in the first half. I agree with that. But you have more quality on the pitch, the likes of an Arsenal, the likes of an Aston Villa, who are very physical in the middle of the pitch, the likes of a Man City. I think Gravenberch could potentially go under the radar a little bit. I think he'll maybe struggle at times. But they're a good midfield too. I think one thing that I worry on a little bit is probably between Gravenberch and McAllister is a little bit of pace. Yeah. Is that ability to be able to maybe lose a player and be able to get back to them. I think if the midfield for any other team goes past them, I think they're past them, and they may not be able to make the ground up. That's the only issue that I have. I think actually Gravenberch in the tackle was very physical, and I thought he'd done a great job tackling. It was something that surprised me. He put himself about. He was getting stuck into a challenge. And McAllister, McAllister is a pit bull.
He is.
This guy plows into challenges. Yeah. I can see McAllister getting yellow cards very, very regularly, but I love that tenacity. I love that aggression from him. He reminds me of Mascherano. He's just got that, that fight to get the ball.
Yeah, he does. And McAllister was one. I don't know if he saw as much of the ball against Ipswich as I thought he would. But still, just an incredible player that we get to watch in a Liverpool shirt as a midfielder. I mean, he for me is probably our number one option when it comes to that middle of the park midfield. 2 or 3, because he's just so consistent. We saw him do it all last season. We already know he's Premier League tested, obviously, with Brighton, and then last year with Liverpool. And like you said, he's just got that tenacity. I think sometimes he can turn that off a little bit. I'd like to see that just all the time, every game.
Yeah.
Come with that intensity, and but these two, I'm curious to see now over the course of the next month or two if there can, the chemistry can grow between them. And they can kind of figure each other out, know where each other is on the pitch. And, but I mean, just some amazing options here. Let's move a little bit further up the pitch here. We've got our defense set. We've got our double pivot set. I'm going to space these guys out a little bit more. Let's talk about our number 10. Number 8 or number 10 role. Szoboszlai started there last game, obviously. Do you think he starts there again?
Yeah, I thought second half he just turned it on. I think Szoboszlai was in the top 3 best players on the pitch as well. This guy, he played a crossfield ball. I mean, he hit it on the run. He hit it about 60 yards. Straight into the feet of Luis Diaz, and I was like, wow. He hit it. I mean, he really put his laces through it. It landed straight at Diaz, and it just started an attack. I thought Szoboszlai, that's the player I want to see from Szoboszlai. That second half against Ipswich. If this is how this guy is going to turn it on this season, Elliot's going to have a tough time getting back into the team.
I know.
Because he was very good second half. And again, we need to, temper our expectations a little bit because it was Ipswich. And listen, Ipswich are going to fight probably harder than a lot of teams because they have to. But Szoboszlai second half, amazing. Very, very good performance from him in the second half. And that's what I want to see from him because I think out of everyone on the pitch, he's one player that really needs to start putting a shift in, because he had a bit of he tailed off from the sort of second half of the season last season, and he didn't have a particularly great Euros as well.
Yeah.
So I'd like to see more from Szoboszlai, but 100% after that performance in the second half, he'd be one of the first names on the sheet for me.
Yeah. Yeah. Some of those little touches too. There was
Amazing.
one, I think it was to Trent. He just made a little tiny touch right. I mean, he just left it on a platter. Trent just streaks through. I mean, his creativity with it, and just the amount of kind of just power and pace we have with Szoboszlai, I think is great. And I think he's one of the players I look at. I look at Szoboszlai and I look at Darwin Núñez. Those two players, if Arne Slot can unlock the potential with those two guys, there are bright days ahead. There are bright days ahead because there's so much potential. There's so much power, so much pace. If you can figure out how to unlock that, that's gonna be really fun to watch.
The right side, Sam. If it works on a good day, Trent to Szoboszlai to Salah.
Yeah.
I can't think of many right sides in world football that on its day, if this works, that competes with it.
Yeah.
Potentially Real Madrid, Carvajal, Rodrigo, Fede Valverde. Yeah, these midfields, this kind of right side three, that works as well. That's comparable.
Yeah.
Arsenal, pretty good. Ben White, Odegaard, Saka.
Yeah.
Excellent, amazing. But I tell you what, Liverpool, if that right side is ticking, I mean, Szoboszlai, Trent, and Salah, the interchange between those three is amazing. And if it works, I fear for the other team at times.
Yeah.
It's a great right side three.
Yeah. And I'm excited, hopefully, to see a full match of what we got to see in the second half against Ipswich. And by the way, I said this earlier in the week, Ipswich hadn't lost at their home stadium for about a whole calendar year. Yes, it's Ipswich, newly promoted, but that's going to be a hostile place to go and play. And I think a lot of Premier League teams are going to be a little shocked and surprised at how difficult it is going to be to win there. It was a tricky first match, I think, for Arne Slot and the adjustments. I mean, if he hadn't made those adjustments, I don't know what we'd be talking about right now. So I think Mo Salah is a lock at the right wing. Not much to say about him. He was brilliant. That second half, he was just free flowing. Probably could have had another goal, but a goal and assist for him. Typical day at the office for Mo Salah. Okay, I think we've got two interesting positions left here. We've got the left wing and we've got the striker position. Let's go left wing first. Diaz got the nod. Gakpo came in, but Gakpo came in for Jota, and I was a little shocked to see that Gakpo and Diaz kind of switched between striker and left wing once he came on. Who do you give the nod to start this one on the left wing?
I've got two answers on this. For me, I think 100% he'll go with Diaz. Again, for continuity.
Okay.
I think Diaz, as much as his finishing and his final product is poor, his all-round play was pretty good.
Yeah.
I thought he did pretty well on the left wing in terms of beating his man, stood his man on his, behind on a number of occasions on that left hand side, and from an attacking perspective, played pretty well. I mean, this guy, he had that game in pre-season, scored those 2 goals, and I thought, wow, this is what we need to see from Diaz on a regular. And then again, time and time again, when you put it into practice and you put it into the real life scenario, you put it into a game, it's just back to rash decisions. Yeah. Lackluster finishes, overhitting something or underhitting something. His passing at times is a little bit like that as well. Yeah.
Yep.
He struggles on a short pass, Diaz, because I think he plays at pace so much that the simple balls are not so simple for him. So little 10-yard passes he struggles with at times. But his actual play, I thought he was very good. But I think it will be Diaz. I'd rather see Gakpo. Against Brentford, I'd rather see Gakpo. And as mentioned to yourself earlier, I believe that physical presence of Gakpo, he's 6'3". He gives us an additional bit of height in the set piece rather than Diaz. And I actually think Gakpo's maybe a little bit more clinical than Diaz, but I think he'll go with Diaz.
I agree completely. I would like to see Gakpo on the left wing. I'm still curious to know if Arne Slot intends to use Gakpo as a left winger instead of a striker, out striker. Diaz, I think, probably gets the nod here. He's got probably a little bit more 1v1 threat than Gakpo.
Definitely.
And I think Slot values that in his wingers. He wants his wingers to do that because that's the way he plays, and he wants his teams to play. He wants those wingers to be a threat kind of at any time. Diaz has that kind of edge, but Diaz is really similar to Darwin Núñez in that they just play at such a high speed. They don't know how to take that deep breath, calm down, think about what you're doing, make the right decision. And, hey, Diaz is 27? Maybe Arne Slot can figure that out, help him figure that out. We're hopeful he does that with Darwin Núñez as well. But Diaz is a dangerous player. I would hate to try to defend Luis Diaz. I would hate to try to go. I would hate that so much. Yeah. So, all right. Striker, last one here. Diogo Jota, I think he played the entire... he came off. Jota came off for Gakpo. Which I'm hopeful that Jota does not have to play too many full matches this season because we know what happens when he does. I am guessing that Jota starts this one. It'd be hard pressed to not start him. Obviously, he broke the deadlock, scored a goal. He's almost guaranteed for a goal when he plays 40 to 60 minutes a game. Do you disagree with that, Aaron? Jota starting?
I think that's bang on, Sam. Yeah. I think Jota starts. The he's just clinical.
Yeah.
He should have scored the header. I think everyone's given him quite a bit. The pundits are giving him quite a hard time for that header, but he did everything right. He got the action right. He actually got a really good head on it. He just missed. He missed the post by a few inches. Yep. Yeah, he was aiming for the far corner as precise as you can get. Yeah, he missed it by a few inches. The action was good. The connection was good. He just maybe over-twisted and overextended on the actual connection with the ball. And he put it a couple of inches to the side. For me, he deserved to have walked off there with at least 2 goals. Because I thought second half as well. I mean, this guy is a machine. If he had that ability to stay fit through the season, I'd love to see what a full season with Jota looks like.
Yeah.
In terms of goals, because he just never had it. He's never had a full season.
Yep.
But you see when Jota becomes fit and he's been out for 3 months and then he comes back fit, and once he scores, he goes on a run of about 11 games with 9 goals.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh, this is what we've missed. And then he picks up a 3-month injury.
I know.
And this is the problem. We get 10, 11 games out of him. I think hopefully Slot will manage his fitness a little bit better when he's feeling maybe a little bit tired, just giving him a bit of rest. Núñez is hungry as well. I can see this guy coming on at some point and interchanging with Jota. Yep. But Jota has got to start for me.
Yeah. Agreed. So we've really got one change here, which is Konate. All right. I feel good about this. A very strong lineup for Arne Slot's first match at Anfield against the Brentford Bees. Hopefully there's not too much buzzing at the sacred grounds. All right, Aaron, we gotta do last thing here. Score predictions for Sunday. What do you think? Do you want me to go first this time, since you had a little bit harder time last time?
Yeah, I'm nervous.
Right. Okay. You know what? I'm gonna I'm gonna go a little extreme here. I know you said earlier that you think it's going to be a difficult match, a low scoring match, but I'm just gonna go with the heart on this. I'm gonna say 3-0 to the Reds. What do you think?
I worry if Ivan Toney plays. I think Ivan Toney has a point to prove. I think he also wants to try and get himself a transfer by the end of the window.
Mm.
If Ivan Toney plays and Brian and Mbumo's on form, I can see Brentford scoring. Now
Yeah.
Johan Wissa is playing really well for Brentford, and he's picked up the goals since Ivan Toney's been out. I can see Brentford scoring.
Okay.
But I think we'll win, and I think it will be 2-1. I think it'll be a tough
Sure.
game. I think it'll be a physical game, and I think it'll be a bit of a slog. I'd like to think we go 2-0 up and maybe concede a bit of a consolation goal at the end of the game. But
Okay.
I feel it will be a Liverpool win. First performance at Anfield this season with that team, which is a very good team on paper. If we tick, then I think we'll win.
Yeah.
I mean, listen, it could be an easier day at the office. We could turn up. Brentford might not turn up on the travels, and we
Yeah.
go and put, like you say, we go and put 3 past them, or could even be more. We've played Brentford before and really
Yes.
seriously put them to the sword. So
Last
it's an
season,
interesting game.
3-0 at Anfield last season. I'm not just copying and
Yeah,
pasting. And then it was 4-1 away with Ivan Toney scoring a goal. So I think I feel good about our predictions, and we will just have to
yeah.
see. We'll have to see who comes out on top on that one. But good. I feel really good about this. We will see what Arne Slot decides to do in his second game in charge. And
Hmm.
as always, it's up the Reds.
Yeah, of course.